My name is Ben Woodruff. This is my 23-1 task 2 and I'm doing it as a video assessment to go alongside with the PowerPoint. So the first bit is aimed at P3, M2 and D1. The simplified processing model has already been done on the PowerPoint, so I'm going to go straight in at the expanded information processing model. And throughout this I'm going to refer to the expanded information processing model as writing a computer program, because there's some similarities there. So first of all, it's a 5-stage model with the input, stimulus identification, response selection, response programming, and then the output as well. So it's 5 stages to it rather than the 3 in the simplified one, which is good because as we go through it, you'll see there's more in detail bits where the players can then work out how to process the information quicker and become better. So first of all, the input is when you see the stimulus, you observe the info, and then you start to put into practice the processing of it. And it can be improved via stuff like pre-match analysis. A strength of using pre-match analysis is you can find areas to exploit. So for example, it might be Salah sitting down before a game and working out how Stoke City have defended. Do they defend with a flat line? Is there someone sitting behind? He'll then know where and when he can time his runs. And the bonus of this is there's an area to exploit. You found it. The weakness of this though is that if Stoke don't set up like that game, it's new information. It will take a bit longer to process. We might not have as many chances quickly to score. But using that input and that stimulus and observing and getting the observational skills better will make them be able to see something quicker and do it quicker. So that's where the pre-match analysis is. It will help them to see something quicker. He'll be able to see the Stoke defend quicker, to react quicker, which will give them an advantage, more likely to score. Moving on to stimulus identification, when a stimulus is detected by sensory systems. So reoccurring stimuluses you'll be better at reacting to. So for example, it could be if the keeper is off his line a bit and you've seen that before, you'll try and chip him. That's a reoccurring stimulus potentially, because you'll know what to do in that situation, you'll know how to perform it. The more something occurs, the quicker your reactions will become, because you're more used to recognise it and processing it. Also with stimulus identification, a lot of it is used in short-term memory. Sometimes it will be recalled from the long-term memory with the reoccurring stimuli, but if it's one you haven't seen before, it'll be in your short-term memory. This is good because it's there, it's ready to be used, but it's bad because you can only store 5 to 9 things in it. And this could be a weakness if there's a lot going on in a professional game. It might be that some players that can only store 5 won't be able to process as much. So that would be your Russell Martin, wouldn't be able to process as much as potentially your James Maddison, who can store 9 things and do a lot more with it. An example of this would be in the 2012 Champions League final when Didier Drogba stepped up and missed his penalty. The fans' distraction, there was too many things he was trying to store in his short-term memory, so he couldn't then work out where to put the ball as well as he could have done, which did then put him at a disadvantage. These two parts are like the part in a computer program where you work out and you identify what you need to do to fix it. So the program isn't working, you work out what you need to do to fix it. Next we move on to response selection. This is a selection of how you respond, and again it gets better with experience, and the more a player works on this model, the better they'll become, because their reaction time will become faster, they'll process a better response, and they're more likely to get a good success rate. The strength of this is that if you improve it, you can outreact other athletes. So if you practice it and you get better at it, you can outreact other athletes. So for example, it could be again Mo Salah against Ryan Shawcross. Salah might be able to outreact him as he's seen the situation more and he's selected better. And this is, like I say, the part where you select based on the information you took in. So it could be selecting to shoot low rather than high, because you've seen the keeper's back in his line and you want to test him in the bottom corners. This is the part of the computer program where you would then work out what you need to do to fix it. Response programming would then be typing it into the system to get it ready. So at this stage, you've worked out the stimulus, response selection, you've selected what you want to do, the programming, you're getting ready to perform it for the output to then perform it. So in response programming, the body is processing the selected thing and then performing it. It is one of the final actions. So going back to our shooting low example, it could be that you've seen the keeper is on his line and you want to go and test him low in the corners. You've selected that stimulus based on previous experience, knowing that the goalkeeper can't get down as well, and you're programming that to then the output stage is the final stage, and you're putting it in. Now this is also based on the environment and the above stages. So at this stage, you've gone through all the stages, you've worked out the stimulus, you've selected your response, you've programmed it, you're then performing that response. I think this model is very good because it's more in depth, and if a player wants to work on it, there's more to work on. So rather than just 3 stages, there's 5 stages, they can work on their stimulus identification better. The better your stimulus identification, the quicker you're going to become reacting. Again, the quicker you process it and the quicker you program it through the response selection and response programming, the quicker you can then get it out in the output and perform it to outreact someone by potentially a second, which is all you then need to get a foot out to score a goal. So working on this can then actually lead to changing games. With the game being so fast and dynamic nowadays, players need to be able to react quicker, and they need to be able to get just that little bit of edge. They train all the time, they play all the time, so having that little bit of edge against your competitor will really help. An example of this would be Jamie Vardy. He knows that he can use his pace, but he's also got a really good reaction time because he's worked on his model, and he knows that if he couples his pace with his reaction time, he's going to get to the ball more. And in the season where Leicester won the league, he used this a lot, especially when they were counter-attacking. He reacted to it first, got there and scored first. Next up, we're looking at factors affecting perception. So first up is familiarity. So you've experienced something more, you're able to react quicker. An example of this would be Ronaldo trying to beat a man. He could be perceived as really good, but actually it's the familiarity of it. He's done it so many times before, he knows what combinations work, he's confident at it, which makes him look good. But actually this confidence is also a good thing because it boosts him up and makes him keep trying to beat that man. And he will beat them often, which will then lead to attacking chances. Now looking at speed, travelling quickly can affect perception. So an example of this would be Hector Bellerin potentially running down the wing and trying to put a ball in, because he's running at pace, and if he's trying to whip a ball at pace, he won't be able to perceive where his other player is as well, which might then lower the accuracy. So that's a trade-off there. Because he's travelling faster, he's got away from his man, but he can't put an accurate ball in because he can't perceive where the person is because of the speed he's travelling at. But if he was going slower, his man would be up with him and he might not be able to get the ball in. So there's a trade-off there in that example. Next up, loudness can affect perception. So an example of this would be Besiktas going and playing at their stadium, having 42,000 Turkish fans screaming, chanting at you. It means that you can lose concentration or focus, making mistakes more common. So it might be your accuracy is lower with your passing. It might be that you're not shooting on target, it's going over because you're concentrating on everything else. Which might then lead to a team losing because they've not got the focus, the drive, and they're not able to get their skills out because they've lost it because of the loudness. They would then be perceived to be rubbish. Actually, it wasn't that case. That wasn't the case. As for this, the loudness then affects their perception of, oh, is he 20 yards? Is he 30 yards? Where do I pass it? How hard do I pass it? Where do I put it? You're trying to think of it too much because of the loudness, which then affects it. Looking at colour now, colour and brightness. So the big example of this is floodlights for the dark games. They can distract the blind players. So for example, it could be a defender going up to the head of the ball. You can't perceive where the ball is because of the floodlight, which might lead to a defensive error. Knock-on effects. It might be that there's a confidence loss because of that, or even worse, the ball bounces around and it goes in the goal for a loss of game. The trade-off is you need the lights to see, but you can't perceive where the ball is as well if you're looking at the floodlight because it will blind you. Attention level also affects perception, so it should be good at high level. With kiddies football, the attention level might be there. You might get the goalkeeper sitting down picking grass, picking daisies. At the high level it should be. An example could be in the last 10 minutes of the game, you've really got to focus, you've really got to put all your attention on it. It might increase your perception of how you're playing, which will then boost the confidence as well, which should then lead to a better performance. Rooney might not have the best attention level. It might be that if he's not scoring, he then puts his head down. He's not paying attention as well. He might react a little bit later, as from that model earlier, which means he might not be as likely to score, leading to bad confidence, to a bad performance. and he'll then spiral down in that game and not perform because his perception is he's playing bad when really his attention level isn't there. Arousal level. So this will affect your perception of the game. It's an emotional cognitive function, so it could be anxiety, worrying and fear. You've got to try and turn it positive. The same thing with hatred, you've got to try and turn it positive. If you turn that worry into something positive, that hatred into something positive, it will give you the drive to play better. You'll perceive it as a better thing, with a better performance. Now on to factors affecting decision making. So first we're going to talk about Hicks' law. It's the time it takes for a person to make a decision based on the possible choices he or she has at that time when they need to make the decision. So an example of this could be a 100-metre runner. They only have to listen to one thing to make the decision of when to run at the start, and that's the starter's gun, bang, they're up. So their reaction time's quicker. Whereas a football player about to make a pass has to think about many things. Where should I pass it? How hard should I pass it? Is there a player in the way? Do I have enough time? Can I dribble? Can I shoot? There's so many things they're thinking about. Their reaction time is slower because they're looking up, they're processing a lot more. And that's why children hold on to the ball in football, because they're trying to process but it's not working and they can't pass the ball as well. Practice decreases the amount of time needed to make the decision. So the more you've experienced something, as alluded to earlier, the more likely you are going to be to know how to react to that and how to get the best out of that. Again, professional players training every day and playing a match every week, they should be good at reacting to different situations and making the decision of when to shoot. A younger player might not make a decision of when to shoot, he might just do it, or where to shoot on the goal, or they might just shoot. Whereas a better player will know, based on where the goalkeeper's standing, as to where they could shoot for the best possible response because they've practiced it more. Anticipation. This is very important in games, and again, this comes from practice. It could, you've got to gamble, almost is the word that commentators use. You've got to take a risk. So it might be in midfield, you're trying to intercept a pass. You've got to commit yourself to it. It might go past you. You've then got to take that risk. Because it might be that you can win it back and then go on a quick counter-attack and go and score. The goal will then boost confidence, boost the performance, and potentially take you on to draw or win a game to get a result out of it. So anticipation is taking a risk. It's a decision that you've got to weigh up in your head. And again, the more you play, the more likely you are to recognise something, to anticipate it quicker. This is aimed at P4, and this will be discussing the value of effective types of feedback to performers. So first up is knowledge of results, and this will come most at the end of the performance. It will be an analysis of the outcome of the result of the team rather than of a player individually. So you'll look at the performance, the position they are in the table, the score of the game. So it might be that you look at the team losing 2-0, there's a player that beat their man 8 out of 10 times, but you don't individually look at that. And this could affect the performance confidence, because if a manager says they didn't perform well as a team by losing 2-0, but this player's outperformed anyone else, their confidence might drop and they might not play as well next week. So it's important to get this right and actually focus on the individual players. Some teams don't, some teams do, and the ones that do it better. Because if you focus on that individual player, if you do really well today, 8 out of 10 people beaten, well done, superb. The rest of the players want to be like them next week. They want to be the star player, and he wants to keep up to still be the star player and not get beaten next week, rather than focusing on the team and getting them all down, motivate them all at once by focusing on a good player. Next up, intrinsic and extrinsic ones. So intrinsic first, it's the physical feel of the performance. So for example, James Maddison striking a free kick, he'll know potentially if it's going in or not because of how he's hit it, how it's felt when he's hit it. You know if you hit a ball sweetly when you hit it, and it might be at a park with your friends, oh, I hit that sweetly, that's lovely. You get that feel for it. And this will help in the game, it will help evaluate and get better on the moment. So if he has another free kick later on and he didn't hit it well in the first one, he'll know how to improve for the next one, which might then give him more confidence because he'll know how to then beat it, and he's then more likely to score. Extrinsic is all external, so this isn't given by the player, this will be given by the coaches, the teammate at the top level. Performance analysis is very subjective, not objective, so it's not coming from yourself, it's coming from other people. And in this situation, especially at grassroots football, the coach will massively have an impact on what skills are developed. So it might be that the coach has recognised that that player can't pass 20 yards, but he can do a simple 5-yard pass. That player is then going to work on that 20-yard pass, so that skill will get better. And that's the beauty of the extrinsic feedback, is it's non-biased and it will help the player develop. Positive and negative feedback, this is also very important. Encouragement to complete an action or a movement, again from positive feedback, is very important. If there's a desired action taking place from a player, it's very important to instill in them that it's good, because they'll want to perform it again and again. This is just particularly good for young athletes, academy or grassroots level. It motivates them to try again, and it keeps their confidence up, which will keep their performance good. On the flip side of this, you've got the negative. This could discourage a player, but equally, some players don't need positive feedback, they need negative feedback. They need someone to lay into them, to motivate them to push on. They need someone to prove wrong. They need a bit of a push, a bit of a kick up the arse, if you like, to go and play better. But like I said, the downside of this is that a lot of players from this will lose confidence and not play as well.